It is day 260 of the second Trump administration and day 6 of this government shutdown. A reminder about just how far away we are from ending this issue. The House isn't even set to meet this week. The closest thing we saw to any movement in the House today was House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries challenging Speaker Mike Johnson to a televised floor debate about how they could end the shutdown. Johnson, no surprise, declined the invitation and says the government has to be open before his side can negotiate on Obamacare subsidies. Everyone is still wondering when the president and his team might make good on his threats to fire federal workers and slash government agencies. A reporter asked if that could start today, and I want to share the president's response.
It could. At some point it will. And, the Democrats are the ones that started this. Up till now, there hasn't been a great deal of pain. There could be a great deal of pain, but up till now, there hasn't been. I will say this, just hang in there because I think a lot of good things are going to happen. That's all I can say.
Today, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters that the Office of Management and Budget is currently working with agencies to determine exactly who could be laid off if the shutdown continues. One key date to watch, October 15th. That is 1 week from Wednesday. It is a scheduled pay day for the 1.3 million members of our armed services. Goldman Sachs says that deadline could force a compromise in Congress to make sure that paycheck is not missed. And speaking of the military, state and local officials are fighting back as the president tries to send National Guard troops into major American cities. A federal judge decided not to block the deployment of troops to Chicago for now until a full hearing takes place on Thursday. Lawyers for the federal government says Texas National Guard troops are already on their way to Chicago today. The ruling was in response to a lawsuit from the state of Illinois led by Governor J.B. Pritzker. Today, Pritzker accused ICE of snatching up families off the streets and targeting peaceful protesters and journalists. Tonight, the DHS pushed back on those claims, and Pritzker says this is all just part of a plan. Watch this.
This escalation of violence is targeted and intentional and premeditated. The Trump administration is following a playbook: cause chaos, create fear and confusion, make it seem like peaceful protesters are a mob by firing gas pellets and tear gas canisters at them. Why? To create the pretext for invoking the Insurrection Act so that he can send military troops to our city. He wants to justify and normalize the presence of armed soldiers under his direct command.
The Insurrection Act, you might be thinking that's an exaggeration, never going to happen. But here's what the president said.
The Insurrection Act, under what conditions or terms would you?
Well, I'd do it if it was necessary. So far, it hasn't been necessary. But we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that. Portland is on fire. Portland's been on fire for years, and not so much saving it. We have to save something else, because I think that's all insurrection. I really think that's really criminal insurrection.
But federal judge Karen Immergut, she disagrees. She says the protests in Portland are not significantly violent or disruptive. She blocked the deployment of the National Guard there. Trump's administration has appealed the decision and criticized Judge Immergut. But here's what you might want to know. She was appointed in 2019 by guess who? Donald Trump. With that, let's get smarter with the help of our leadoff panel this evening. Susan Glasser joins us, staff writer for The New Yorker, Leanne Caldwell, chief Washington correspondent for Puck, and David Drucker, senior writer at The Dispatch. Susan, it seems like this confrontation over troops in cities is only getting more intense. Where's it headed?
Yeah, Steph, it does feel like we're in an escalatory moment, obviously, rather than being a one-off tool that Trump has used in response to a particular set of protests. He now sees this as a template for the whole country. He's rolling it out in Democratic-run city after Democratic-run city. Just last week, he told the military he thought maybe it should be a training ground for the U.S. military in our cities internally. You referenced Judge Immergut's decision over the weekend. And I thought it really was a remarkable decision for those of you who haven't read it. You know, she took on Trump's false claims, the false pretext of some kind of an insurrection, or he called it actually in ordering up the troops. He said that Portland was a warlike hellscape. And in her decision, she debunks this completely false claim. And she makes the point that, you know, we're a nation of constitutional law and not martial law. And I think it's really remarkable, both because it's false claims underlying what Trump is trying to do, but also the wide range of the confrontations he's picked all around the country right now. You know, he's opening up a multi-front war on what he and his advisors have called the enemy within. And I think part of the disbelief is that we're watching this unfold with our eyes, but we still can't quite believe that what's happening is what's happening. I was imagining this afternoon, try to cover Governor J.B. Pritzker's press conference as if it was not your present day self, Steph, but your 1999 self, you know, and what would you say on the news? It would be almost unthinkable to say the governor of Illinois has accused the president of the United States of an authoritarian takeover of Chicago because he's lying about an insurrection that isn't happening and using that to deploy military troops from around the country. It's an amazing moment in American history that we're watching.